should be fine, yes, huh? Okay, yeah, nice to meet you. Florian Drewes, working in Cologne, Germany, as a blockchain consultant. We do we apply concepts of decentralized ledger technologies or distributed ledger technologies in industry. So we're talking with industrial customers, and they are very curious to find out how to apply and if and for what purposes you would apply distributed ledger technologies in industry. It's still not a settled use case overall. Industry is still looking forward to identify where friction and net gains can be made by using, so where frictions can be reduced using DLT technologies. Of course, I'm a fan of public networks. So this is like, for example, Bitcoin, rather than private networks. In the industry, we see a lot of private networks being deployed. And then, yeah, it's some kind of a trade-off. Don't want to go too deep into the details here. Today was supposed to be in Düsseldorf. Unfortunately, it will not be in person. So it's also my first this style of online meetup. Okay, let's dive into the topics. The talk is, or the title of the talk is DeFi on steroids. And actually, Celine, this was your suggestion. And actually, I changed my narrative of the talk towards the DeFi discussion a little bit also, and the critics there, and how Lightning Network applies there.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted a clickbait heading. So
yeah, it's okay. It's okay. So I decided to discuss a little bit about DeFi, what it's all about, and why Lightning Network can be considered to be one of those. This is DeFi Pulse. It's a website showing the different DeFi products, and DeFi stands for decentralized finance. And typically, or let's look a little bit on the numbers, so we can see in the course of the year that the amount of value locked into DeFi products increased. It reached the 1 billion mark a few days ago, but it's correcting recently since we have also this market correction in the last couple of days. It was a big trend all throughout the whole 2019. And we see the biggest player in the space is MakerDAO. It's a decentralized borrowing and lending of Ethereum, and you can print your own stablecoin with this. It has a dominance of 56% of all locked value. And yeah, decentralized finance is the approach to use blockchain layers as a kind of base layer and build a solution on top, which offers products similar to what the financial system offers in the past. And for example, in the traditional sense, you would go to a bank, you would you would take up a loan, you would borrow some money, and as a collateral, you would just put the house you are about to buy with that money, and plus some safety, some additional safety. And in case you cannot pay back the loan, the bank will just use your house as collateral, sell it, and then it's a security for the bank that that they don't lose overall money. Of course, it's related to risks also for the bank and for the person taking the loan. And that's basically what it's all about. Also in decentralized products, here the use case is a bit different. You have a digital asset, say you have Ethereum, and you would lock it into a certain smart contract, and it would print, for example, a stablecoin for you. And then you can use the stablecoin to do something else. You can invest into a startup, you can try to trade and make it more. But if you don't pay it back, you will lose your collateral. This is a lending use case. The Lightning Network is a bit different. It's more a payment use case. So in the Lightning Network, you would lock your Bitcoin into a certain smart contract. And this smart contract is a multi-sig address on the Bitcoin blockchain. And then you can do, let's say, very high frequent, very fast payments with this. So the second layer on Bitcoin and the decentralized aspect, the finance aspect, is a payment, a peer-to-peer payment. And yeah, when we look on this DeFi Pulse, it shows a list of various DeFi apps, and then very disappointingly, we see the Lightning Network on Bitcoin, by the way, the only Bitcoin chain-based product here, on number 12. And I was also a bit surprised to see, okay, there's really so much more value in US dollar locked into other DeFi products, and it sounded very fantastic, but there was also a lot of critics. And the critics I want to dive in a little bit, because what we have here is the discussion about the D in DeFi. And the D in DeFi stands for decentralization. And here, Charlie Lee, he's the founder of Litecoin, he made a very, he tweeted a tweet where he said, "This is why I don't believe in DeFi." So in the overall DeFi space, it's the worst of both worlds. Most DeFi can be shut down by a centralized party. So it's just decentralization theater. And yet no one can undo a hack or exploit unless we add more centralization. So how is this better than what we have now? And this is a typical response you would get from very critical persons who look at the DeFi space and say, no, that's actually not decentralized. It's basically crap. It's not useful at all, because if the D is not decentralized, then the D is actually a C, and we have CeFi, we have centralized finance. And centralized finance is basically what we have dealt with the last 100 years, or basically after introduction of the fiat money, where money is printed and then cheap loans can be given out, and then there's systemic risk building up, all these kinds of stuff. So why should we have centralized finance on the blockchain? It would be stupid, right? This is basically Charlie Lee's point. Then what is he referring in this tweet? On the right side, DeFi Pulse, they tweeted an information that a DeFi product BZX was basically exploited. There was a certain smart contract, a certain configuration, and it had a vulnerability. So it was not a secure smart contract, so to say. And someone found this vulnerability and exploited it, and he stole a couple of funds. I'm not so sure. It was like not too much, but it was some substance was there. And I find that view of Charlie Liu actually accurate, but a little bit too dramatic, because it brings us back to the question, what is decentralized meaning, and when are DeFi products actually DeFi? And for this, most of our viewers probably know this, decentralization is not a black and white thing. You can have many aspects for everything which can affect the decentralization of something. Decentralization of money, decentralization of a cryptocurrency, decentralization of a virus spreading. These are all aspects for decentralization. And typically we talk about stuff like borderless. Is it borderless? Is it censorship free? Does it allow permissionless behavior, permissionless access? Is there no central authority controlling the thing? And the thing in our case, for example, is Bitcoin. Is it trustless? So do I need to trust certain actors, or can I verify everything? And this is the slogan here: don't trust, verify. And we don't want to trust. But this is just, let's say, core parameters I could extend. If I look on the cryptocurrency, I can say, okay, how is the data access of the individual cryptocurrency? What is the economic model? Is this decentralized in a way, or does it have centralized aspects, like, I don't know, a pre-mine or a very high supply for the founders, etc. The distribution of funds is also an aspect. If all the money is in one hand, it's not decentralized, right? Even though everything else can be decentralized. And so on and so on, independent development, the distribution of miners and validators, like we often hear the critics, the Bitcoin hash rate is very centralized, therefore Bitcoin is not decentralized. So we hear all of that, and we can add a lot of items and more and more and more. And what does this tell, or this shows to us is that we have to define a degree of decentralization, actually. So in the degree of decentralization, we can compare different projects and we would apply a rating for the different parameters I just showed you. And there can be many. There can be a very high number of decentralized parameters. So where to put the weight, like how much is the mining centralization in Chinese mining pools in Bitcoin actually affecting the product, that because no one is exploiting this, right? So it might not actually be so easy to exploit this fact. Or how well is the Ripple token distributed amongst participants and the founders? And all of this you would rate, and typically you would need opinions, and you would facts, and you gather this for every parameter. You make some average, and then you have a list of parameters. You can compare projects, and basically the bigger the surface is, the higher the degree of decentralization is. And very simple, you could just sum up, if you normalize these parameters, say from 0 to 100, you would sum these all up, and you would get a degree of decentralization. And if we say the degree of decentralization goes from 0 to 1, maybe Bitcoin is at 89. I just put it as an example. I didn't do some deep investigation for this. Maybe for Ethereum it's 72. If I have other parameters with a higher weight or a different opinions and facts gathered, I come up to different numbers, but maybe the truth is somewhere there. And it will change over time. Looking at Bitcoin, it started with one developer, Satoshi, developed it, deployed the chain. So it was a single miner. We have all the funds in one hand. So if we would look on such a project from today, we would say this is a centralized shitcoin. Yeah? But of course it was not. It was the first coin to launch, and therefore there was nothing like a decentralized cryptocurrency before that. So the degree of decentralization for Bitcoin, it was in the beginning maybe 0 or 1. It gradually improved because this thing grew and became more decentralized. So we should always keep in mind when we judge a product, is centralized or not, like where does it come from? Where does it want to go? And is it actually going on this path? Okay, so long story short, this is a table from the DeFi Pulse, and I added the DoD column. And I put this comment here. The numbers are just exemplary. I didn't do this in deep study for all the products. I just want to show that each product, even though it's a DeFi product, it might have a different degree of decentralization where it is currently at. And if we would have added this for all the products, I am pretty sure that the Lightning Network would be one of the highest values. Because I will explain it soon, the Lightning Network really, the development of the Lightning Network really tries to keep the decentralized aspects of Bitcoin active and vivid on the second layer as well. And we can't say this for every DeFi product. There are DeFi products with the Oracle, so the data feed, what is the real value of US dollar for an ETH, for example, is not decentralized. So the data Oracle can break things. We have maybe a DAO where the distribution of the governance tokens is highly centralized. So all the decisions are basically coming from a group or a single individual. So keeping all of this in mind, Bitcoin Lightning Network probably has a very high degree of decentralization, and ordering it by the DoD would result in putting the Lightning Network on #1, in my opinion. Okay, then let's go. This was the DeFi aspect of it and the critics. Let's go on to the Bitcoin Lightning Network. And I put this slide here to give a first user impression. It's typically what we hear from new people entering the space who are used to credit card payments or PayPal payments. They do a Bitcoin transaction and they wonder it takes like 10 minutes. And especially when the blockchain is congested, which we saw at the end of 2017, beginning 18, the blocks were simply full. And this is this chart here. So we put all the stuff on chain, on the blockchain, and we have to remember this blockchain is synced by thousands of nodes, and they are sharing the data. So they have to store this data. So we can't make the blocks like too big, because then people are not able to synchronize to the nodes anymore. They don't synchronize their nodes. They give up on running a node, and then we have less decentralization on the nodes. Right? So everything is a trade-off. And Bitcoin has a certain parameter set for how big a block is. And in around this timing, end of 2017, we saw that there were more than 250,000 transactions lying in the Bitcoin mempool. And what this means is they were not on the blockchain, they were lying next to the blockchain and waiting to enter the blockchain. So miners would continue to find blocks and take transactions from the mempool and integrate them into the block. Simply speaking, everybody who was in the mempool was just waiting, partially waiting for days for his transaction to get confirmed. And this also led to transaction fees to rise. We can see that this color coding here shows that there were people paying around 700 Satoshi per byte of a transaction. And this can accumulate to very high numbers in US dollar terms very quickly. So yeah, there's obviously a problem with the scaling of the Bitcoin blockchain, because no data can be put, not every data can be put on chain, or other, if I formulate it different, if we put all the data on chain, it won't scale. And this is actually true for all blockchains. You know, there is nothing that can scale with the number of transactions if you just put more and more and more on it. Okay, so what's the fundamental now? Instead of doing every transaction on chain, we verify most of them off chain. We use the blockchain only to sync from time to time. And the biggest challenge is this off-chain, because off-chain means it's not happening on the blockchain. And then suddenly, yeah, but blockchain, we need to have a high degree of trustlessness, etc. But the challenge is to maintain the high degree of decentralization of Bitcoin also for the off-chain layer. And this is the challenge they are tackling with the Lightning Network. To give an example how it works. So I try to use very simple picture here. We have the Simpsons in a bar, and we know this from our all-day life. When we are in a bar, for example in Germany, we would order a beer from the waiter, and we would not immediately pay the beer, right? Because then we would have to pay every time, and it's taking time, and there are many customers. So we order a number of beers, and then at the end of our day, or at the end of the stay, we would go and pay what we have consumed. So in this example, a beer costs $4, and the guys are here. This one had 2 beers. He had a few more. He's now $24. There is Homer. He had also for $12 beer, and Mo is the blockchain because they would go there to settle. But that's not really it, because among each other, they can also do some deals. Yeah? So, for example, they could play a round of darts, yeah? Where you throw the arrow onto a board. And so these 3 guys, they play darts. And the first guy, he lost $4 in the darts, in the dart game. The next guy, he lost $8 in the darts game. And of course, Homer, he won the $12 in total, which were used in this game of darts. So what Homer can do now is, hey, my friend, I consumed for $12 at Mo, so I won $12 from you guys. You guys pay my beers. So Homer is not actually doing anything with his money in his wallet. And then the guys would go to Mo, come and settle your debt. Yeah? They would pay, and they would give also $4 and $8 to pay for the $12 of Homer. And then Mo has a reduced number of transactions he can see. And this is the idea, that you have a network where you say, I have peers connected to each other, and by some cryptographic magic, which we cannot go into too much details today, we ensure that they can transact with each other. Yeah, I send you something, you send me something, and in case it's needed, in order to sync after a long time, or in case of a dispute, or don't trust the nodes which are connected to each other anymore, I can always go to the blockchain and settle what happened until now. And this is really the Eli 5, explain like I'm 5, the Lightning Network. To show a bit more in a schematic way and to get a bit more technical what's going on, we have 2 participants in the Lightning Network. And for the beginning, to establish a payment channel, this is the wording we use for Lightning payment channels. They establish a payment channel by creating a so-called funding transaction. This is this thing in the top. And in this funding transaction, every participant can put how much Bitcoin they are willing to put into this channel. So in this example, Bob puts 10 Bitcoin, and Alice puts 10 Bitcoin into this multi-sig wallet. And because it's a little bit complicated funding transaction, it's rather really a smart contract. It's a Bitcoin script which handles this. And after this happened, so this first step is happening on chain, on the blockchain, we can now proceed to the next step, where Bob and Alice, they share cryptographic secrets, which are basically some transaction data and some nonces, etc. So some values. So they share cryptographic secrets, and by this they can say, okay, by having this cryptographic secret received, I actually have now 12 Bitcoin. Alice in this case has now 12 Bitcoin in this multisig, and Bob has only 8. And I can send him a cryptographic secret back, such that he suddenly has 9 Bitcoin in this multi wallet, and Alice remains at 11. So, and the beauty of this is happening off chain. So this cryptographic secrets, they can really be shared via WhatsApp. Huh? It really doesn't matter. It's cryptographic secrets are just text messages, signed data basically, and it can be super fast, and it can happen at very low cost, because how expensive is a WhatsApp message? Probably not very expensive. And yeah, you can send a lot, you can receive a lot, And so a lot of things can happen. So we can imagine this could stay open for a year, a month, to any time, and it can have any number of transactions in between. So after a while, they decide to leave the channel because we remember they locked it in this multisig wallet. It might be that Bob wants to use his Bitcoin somewhere where Lightning would not be accepted. Then he would actually have to close the channel. So it feels like this Bitcoin is really locked away. And of course, if it's only a payment channel between Bob and Alice, it's only locked in this particular payment channel. So what they do at the end, by handing in the cryptographic secrets they exchange with each other, at the time of closing, they get their payout corresponding to these cryptographic secrets. Yeah? Simply speaking, Bob receives 9 Bitcoin from this multisig and Alice 11. And they are basically happy. There are various ways someone could try to cheat the system, and there are various ways how to prevent this, but we don't want to go into detail this. Maybe we can cover it in the Q&A later. But it would be actually very boring if only Bob and Alice could send money to each other, and that's it, because you would actually lock a lot of money for this. So this is the point why the Lightning Network is actually a network. It allows for hopping or hops. So there is a possibility that payment channels are established between participants and between other participants. So Bob has a payment channel with Alice, and Alice has one with Charles. So it's possible to send messages from Bob to Charles using Alice as a kind of router. Yeah? And therefore, we often say in the Lightning Network, payments are routed over the network to reach a destination which I'm not directly connected to. And in this example, there is cryptographic secret shared over one more additional hop, and then we can say the Bitcoin arrived there. And it's built in such a way that the payment can goes through or fails. So this is called atomic. The payment must be atomic. It should not be that it can like half go through and then it's an unclear state. So the challenge really is how to make these payments atomic, how to make them trustless, because you would argue, yeah, I have to trust Alice on a certain degree. And there are actually a few attack vectors which say, okay, I have to trust Alice that she routes it correctly, that she's not blocking routes, etc. pp. And by this, that I can now route payments over a network, it feels less that my money is locked into a specific channel, because now my money is locked into the network. And then if the network effect kicks in, this can be a very attractive, let's say, DeFi product in that sense, because I have an off-chain payment scaling for Bitcoin payments. And yeah, this is the brief explanation. So let's look a little bit on how the Lightning Network evolved. I said it went live on the Bitcoin mainnet in January 2018. It was very exciting. I was very happy to be in this space at the time it was deployed, because I entered Bitcoin in around 2016. And I already missed a lot of good stuff when I entered. So I was very happy to see this live. So in the January, we had 66 channels opened. So there were a number of nodes, and they had 66 channels opened. And the total liquidity, and if we remember, in each payment channel, you have to put Bitcoin. So you have to lock a little bit liquidity in there. And the total capacity is, when you sum all of this liquidity up, you would get a number. And this was below 1 Bitcoin in January 2018. So very early days. And then it started to grow. So here is a snapshot from the February. And in February, we already had 1,300 channels and 5.4 Bitcoin locked into this. And we can see there are funny names coming up, and people were just exploring and testing it. It continued until May. Lightning mainnet now had about 6,600 channels open, 20 Bitcoin locked. Yeah, and you can see on the graph it's getting really crowded, because it's not very easy to depict 6,600 lines on a single picture. And on the June timing, we had a slow reduce in the number of channels, but we had an increase of the liquidity. 45 Bitcoin totally locked in June 2018. And there are also a few people who say, look, it's getting centralized aspects, because you can see there are some nodes which have a lot of connections. So there are particular player in the network which gather a lot of network connections, a lot of payment channels, and they also have a high degree of liquidity. So if they would go offline, or they can disrupt the network flow, or they are like very attractive honeypots, because you have to be online with your node in order to route payments and interact with the network. So they could get hacked more easily. So these are the typical critics, and yeah, which apply for a certain degree of amount. But we have to remember it's free to enter. If you enter the Lightning Network and you provide liquidity, you give additional routes to the network, you give alternatives. So, and this is also what we see, because the number of channels further increased until it was in August, it was at 8,000 channels, 82 Bitcoin, that we see centralized parties from the past were not centralized anymore. So it's really changing, and keep in mind the degree of decentralization is growing here, it's changing, it's a very dynamic thing. There is an update from, so mind this was 2018, and I have an update from May 2019. We had 37,000 channels, and now it's getting really ugly to show everything on a picture. But I like this picture because it has 1,000 Bitcoin locked. Yeah, this was the first time we had 1,000 Bitcoin locked into this payment network. And then to give an estimate of how much transactions I can actually do in this network, there is a so-called guesstimate from Christian. He says, keep in mind, a Lightning transaction is like a WhatsApp message. Yeah? Like how many WhatsApp messages per second can your computer do like full time if he's really focusing on that? And so if you come up with a number of 500 transactions per second, multiplying by the channels you have, you get a potential throughput of having 80 million transactions per second. And this is a very fascinating thing about the off-chain payments, is they scale by design. They are designed to scale for these high-frequent, smaller payments. And you have all kinds of problems with this, but it's scaling by design, which is very important. So there comes up this tendency to say, for a higher amount Bitcoin payment, you would go on-chain. Like you buy a car, you don't mind if the transaction fee is 10 cents or 50 cents. Yeah? Or you buy a cup of coffee for €3, where you're actually interested that the transaction fee should not be really like 30 cents. It should be more like 1 cent or half a cent. And in the Lightning Network, it can be transaction fees down to 1 Satoshi. So it's really, really cheap. Okay, then I have, of course, I made another snapshot this year, actually today, and the number of channels reduced. It's 35,000 channels, and it's also the total amount of Bitcoin locked reduced. It's only 800 anymore. So we are a little bit on a correction phase, and I show this on these statistics. So there are further stats, and if we focus on this top right graph here, we can see the number of channels of the Lightning Network. And in the early phase until the middle of 2019, we really had this exponential run up, like people were spinning up Lightning nodes as crazy. And then this consolidated and corrected a bit. Yeah? We have reached some local low after that. And then currently it's on a, let's say, slow, steady grow path. There are two aspects to this. First, this number of channels is only of Lightning nodes who publicly announce they have a channel because they or they have a node because they want to take part in the routing. If I have a Lightning wallet on my phone, and there are Lightning wallets where you can have your own Lightning client on the phone, you would not be public because you would not be online with your phone 24/7. So it wouldn't make sense to route payments with your phone. So the number of people running Lightning wallets and Lightning clients on mobile devices is not shown in these statistics. It's basically very, very hard to track this. Okay, so we can see all kind of stuff. The number of nodes was permanently increasing. So let's say the number of nodes is strong. The number of channels was correcting. The capacity was growing, and in Bitcoin terms, it reached 1,000 Bitcoin, and then we reduced to 800 right now. We have these about 10 million locked in it, same as in the DeFi Pulse view. And we have much more further statistics. If anybody's interested in this bitcoinvisuals.com/lightning, you can explore a lot more. So from what I want to say is the growth of the Lightning Network actually looks very healthy, and I see it's on a very good way. Also, I'm often doing meetups together with the guys from Crypto Monday from Cologne, and they also have a website where I wrote an article, but it's in German, because when we had this correction, a lot of people, especially who didn't appreciate to have cheap and fast payments on Bitcoin, because they have, for example, altcoins, or they believe in altcoins who tackle this use case, they said, look, it's not working, and that's why it's decreasing, which is a very simple conclusion. And to remedy this, I explained in 2 articles why I don't see this the case, why I see different factors for adoption, and it touches a little bit like the different degrees you can have, the different parameters you can have. Why would someone leave the network? Why would nodes stay in the network but reduce their channels, etc.? Okay, let's do some conclusion about the learnings here. The first learning is it works. I can say that. It's not perfect. You should consider when playing with it like in an alpha or beta stage. Sometimes you see problems like if you open a payment channel, usually you do this with all the liquidity on your side. So if you open a payment channel with someone on the internet, he doesn't know you. So in this multi-sig wallet, you would put, let's say, half a Bitcoin, but the other party would put 0 Bitcoin. So you need to send some Bitcoin in this channel over in order to receive actually Lightning payments. And this is very confusing for new people. They spin up the node and they want to receive 100 Satoshi from a friend, and then it pops up an error message. There is no inbound liquidity or capacity. So it's the hard, it's not like seamlessly perfect, but it's working. And for me, mostly important, it's still borderless, global, it's censorship-free, anybody can leave, it's peer-to-peer, you are free to leave, you're free to enter, you're free to decide, do you want to take a fee for routing payments, or do you want to do it very cheap? Now, do you want to use it on an economic way to make money with it, or do you simply are a fan of Bitcoin, you want to allow Lightning payments? The biggest problem probably is also coming from its design, the larger payments. So you can imagine if I have a payment channel between Alice and Bob and Charlie, and we have 1 Bitcoin in each of this channel, I can never make a 5 Bitcoin payment because there is not enough liquidity in this network. So there is a median of, I forgot the number, it's $250 around this. In Bitcoin terms, of course, it's a different number. Where it's getting harder to get payments through if they exceed this median, because you find less routes which have enough capacity to route your payment. There is also a few aspects improved over this year, especially. There is, or let's say the end of last year and this year, there is channel balancing is now improving. So you can imagine if you have a Lightning node and you have, I don't know, 15 channels open or 3 or 15, sometimes you want to rebalance certain channels. So you have circular payments to yourself, or you need actually loop in, loop out features, which mean you put one on-chain transaction to, for example, loop in liquidity into 3 payment channels. This kind of stuff is really like state-of-the-art research, and it's coming out. There's a new product launched from Lightning Labs called Loop, and they are really tackling this for shop owners or exchanges, etc., to improve this balancing. There are also already first versions of multi-part payments, so-called MPP, or atomic multipass payments, where you can basically send a payment over, so you have 1 payment and you send it over separate routes in parallel, and it arrives as 1 payment. And this is very strong because it will tackle this larger payment problem. If you can now combine liquidity on different routes, you may actually bring a larger payment to the network. Yeah, so these are the learnings so far. And there's also a funny game. It was in the last year, I think, in 2019, February. Oh, it's pretty much 1 year ago. There was a lightning torch where on Twitter, people were pasting lightning invoices and then adding 10,000 Satoshis to it and then sending it to someone they trust. So it's a game of trust using the Lightning Network to send like a torch from the Olympic Games to another. And they did this spontaneously, and it worked, and it was a first like test, a POC for the Lightning Network in public payments, and very interesting to follow and see this. All right, so yeah, I hope it's now clear what's the point, and that you're not so disappointed at this guy now. I want to close with a few remarks or demonstrations here under the term make Bitcoin spendable again. Yeah, I show a video on YouTube here. It's linked down here. How I can use how I can do a Lightning payment on Amazon to actually pay for a good. Yeah, and it works. You need a plugin for this, and I did this demo last year. I hope it's still working. I didn't try it out for a couple of months now, but it was really interesting to see for me. Yeah, I have a few Satoshi in my wallet, and they, for example, doubled in value. So now I might consider to spend a few. And using this plugin, you can actually do it. You can pay a Lightning invoice on Amazon, and the person who is running this plugin, they will convert this into a payment to Amazon for you. Yeah, and then it's getting really interesting because I can have this low amount payments in Bitcoin on different services. And I'm not sure what the time says. I think it's not too late. I want to give you guys a few ways how to start, how to play with the Lightning Network. I recommend to install a Lightning mobile wallet on your mobile device. The first recommendation is this Bitcoin Lightning wallet here in the Android Play Store. It's not available for Apple devices. I think it was, at least until a couple of months ago, it was not available. But what I like particularly about this wallet, it's not a custodian wallet. It's a Lightning client software runs on your phone. So you actually do the whole trip. You have to put some Bitcoin on it. You will look in the list of available routes. You will open a payment channel. You will pay into it. You will wait until it's confirmed on the blockchain. And then you're ready to go, but you cannot receive. You should spend first, and then you're able to receive. So this is, if you consider yourself a rather advanced user, you should go with this one. If you say, well, that's actually way too complicated, I want to have it quick and easy, and quick and easy, you use a Blue Wallet. This is available for Android and App Store, from the Apple App Store. And what it allows you is, it's a custodian wallet. So someone will own someone is running this Lightning node for you, and he will forward payments on your behalf. This is a so-called custodian. And when you play with this, when you have little money on it, say €5, it's not really like the problem. But once it's getting more, like let's say €500, and you say, I don't want to trust these guys anymore, you can actually configure it to become trustless, to become a non-custodian solution. But then you have to set up the Lightning node and everything else on your PC at home, and you need to connect it. So it's very good for start. Quickly you can play around with this, and yeah, then it's a good entry for people who are not on a very high technical degree. Okay, where do we see this applying? We see it a lot in games because no big company would start to use suddenly the Lightning Network coming from nowhere. So usually small games and gimmicks are the first applications. There is a big game in development. It's called Light Night. Yeah, it's like a Fortnite clone where you would pay in this funny comic environment. You would shoot yourself on you would shoot your enemies, and you can earn Bitcoin by this, and you can use Lightning payments to instantly pay for some stuff, also on very low amounts. But it's not done yet. It's in development. Have a look on it. It looks really promising, and I hope they come out with their first demos this year. And I hope it's going to be fun. It brings more adoption to Lightning. And then we have other stuff. For example, the Lightning Roulette, where you can actually say you put 500 Satoshi, you put on black, and then you need to deposit 500 Satoshi. It works in 2 seconds. You spin the wheel, you double it, and then you can withdraw 1,000 Satoshis. And keep in mind, 1,000 Satoshis is like, I don't know, it's a fraction of a cent. So you're really playing for pennies here, and you pay this with your phone over the internet, and this is like the innovation. You can really feel the innovation when you do this. Okay, there is also a very interesting, if you are more on the art side of things, you can use Satoshi's Place. You can see a canvas here, and using some tools and brushes and pens, you can start to draw. And you pay for every pixel you draw. And this is very cool. You can make a small sign, and there are also bad people doing some nasty stuff. Yeah. But you can do all this kind of stuff, and you pay in micro fractions of a Bitcoin. And this is yeah, the cool thing about this one. Okay, actually that's it. You can find me on Twitter. This is my Twitter handle. You can also find me on Telegram. I'm very active in the Crypto Monday group. It's a German-speaking group originating from Cologne, very close to where I live. I'm also hosting the Crypto Monday Meetup in Münster. Yeah, recently I was very busy, so I hope to be back soon doing this. If you ever are in central Germany, come around, join our meetups, or yeah, find me on Telegram or Twitter. That's it.
Yeah, thank you, Florian, for the great presentation. I learned a lot. I don't know our speakers and our attendees. Yeah, and so I wanted to ask where they can find you, but you had a nice slide prepared for it. Thank you very much. And also thank you, Crypto Monday, of course. I posted on their Meetup group. So it's actually the big brother, I would say, of our group. We are from Düsseldorf. Crypto Monday is also in Düsseldorf. And so, yeah, but there's no rivalry there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we are just a community that tries to spread the good work around.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know about our participants. I didn't see any questions, but I have one or two. So the first one will be, can we build apps on the Lightning Network?
Can we build apps on the Lightning Network? That's actually a good question. Typically, apps for the Lightning Network are called labs. Yeah? So starting with an L and then app, so labs, Lightning apps. And it's not directly on the Lightning Network. What you would typically do, and I call this Satoshi's Place, it's a lab, because you build a classic website, you have a web server running, you have a UI, you have some stuff in the background, some calculations ongoing. But for the essential part of the payment, you only integrate the Lightning Network. So the lab is very typically, very often, like a very classical app or classical website, and integrates only the payment, because this is what Lightning is. It's a payment routing solution.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, Satoshi's Place is very famous, and like you said, there are all kinds of drawings there. Well, it's a fun place, and where everyone can express themselves.
Yeah, right.
And so you also mentioned the Lightning Roulette. So how do we play that?
Let's try a demo. Yeah? I don't have a problem with this. Give me a second to prepare it. Actually, I have opened it earlier to see if the actual version is still running. Can you see it?
I only see your desktop, in your desktop background.
Ah, okay. So can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. Great. Where were we? Okay. So this is a typical example of a lab. And let's see what we can do here. We have these coins, and these represent Satoshis. Yeah? Satoshi is a 100 millionth part of a Bitcoin. So it's a tiny amount of money. So I put, for example, 500 Satoshis, I put on red. Yeah? And then I would spin. Oh, I have some balance in my wallet. Actually, I wanted to show you that I have to pay.
Okay.
I forget to withdraw. And the number was an 8 in black, and I lost 500 Satoshis. Okay. Let me do it differently. Now I need to double, right? So if you lose on putting on, you need to double down. Okay. So I put 1,000 now on red. So I spin again, and he says low balance. So because my balance is only 409, I have to add around 600 Satoshi to be on the safe side. So here I'd say I deposit 600 Satoshis, click on deposit, and it would generate this QR code for me. And this is a so-called Lightning invoice. And this is very different from actually the Bitcoin payment. In Bitcoin, you have like static address. But in Lightning, you have very dynamic payment invoices. And this is actually very good for privacy if you think about it. So now I open a wallet. I can show into the camera. It's starting and loading. And here I use, yeah, it's very hard to see, right? Here I use anyway the blue wallet. And I would go on my Lightning wallet. I would click on send and scan the QR code. And I hope the resolution is good to scan it, because sometimes it's tricky. Okay, it worked. So it's not possible to see, right?
Yeah, no problem.
It's very hard. Okay, I have the 600 satoshis here. So now I click on pay, not play, and you can see it confirmed. So this was in the time range of 2 seconds, I'd say. And this really shows the strength of the thing. I paid a very small fraction of money in like 2 seconds. So now my balance is 1,009. So now I spin the wheel. And of course, now I have to trust the operator that he's not betraying me. And look at this, I won. Yeah? So I won 1,000, I get back my 1,000. So now I have 2,009 Satoshi. And I could also withdraw the amount. And for this, I would need, if we remember, there are no addresses in Bitcoin. On my wallet, I would create a payment invoice where I want to receive 2,009 Satoshi. I would create this invoice, 2009. It's now $12 create the invoice. And then I get this QR code on my phone. And then it's actually the tricky part. How do I get this QR code into, let's say, this Lightning roulette? As I said, it's working, but it's not perfect yet. So I have to have a QR code scanner on my PC now, because now I'm on my PC actually. And yeah, of course I don't. I mean, I can try, but yeah, it would work. Let's say it would work here, even though don't trust verify. Yeah, you can paste your payment request, your payment invoice in here, and then withdraw it, and they would send it to my Lightning wallet. So I then have checked out of the lab. And this is typically how you would use a Lightning app.
Oh, yeah, very interesting. And you also mentioned there could be some cheating on these payment channels that you create on the Lightning network, and there are also countermeasures to prevent them. And maybe it's more technical, but I'm interested as a software developer in the technical details of it.
Sure. Are you able to see the screen? Are you able to see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So what are typical, let's say, attack scenarios? In this off-chain part, in the middle, where the two participants in a payment channel, they share this cryptographic secrets, you could actually, a very early attack was and is, you can say, is try to use an old cryptographic secret from the past and bring it to the blockchain and hope the other participant doesn't know. So what you could do is, Bob, he paid 2 Bitcoin after this first step. So he only has 8 Bitcoin remaining. So what he could do is he could ping Alice and see if she replies. If she doesn't reply, he has a very good estimate that she might be offline. And if she's offline, she cannot control what's happening with her payment channel. So Bob would take the the cryptographic secret. He would not bring it to the blockchain. He would just go to the blockchain and say, let's close it. We didn't have any payments. And if he does so, he would call it, it's a so-called unilateral close. It's only a close from his side. It's not both parties agree to close, only he closes. And then a time window opens, and the time window is configurable, but it's about, I don't know, a couple hundred blocks. That means in this couple of hundred blocks, Alice always has a chance to commit her latest proof of a cryptographic secret. And if she provides a later secret than Bob has provided, she can actually have all the Bitcoin in a wallet. So it's a penalty for Bob if he tries to cheat and Alice notices and she provides an even older cryptographic secret. It
Okay.
allows her to take everything. And by this design, it's too risky for Bob to try this because he's not sure if she's offline for this long duration of blocks.
Yes.
Yeah? And even Alice, and these are so-called backup services, Alice could subscribe to a backup service only giving the cryptographic secrets, which are useless for the backup service, unless they see someone is trying to cheat her customer, which is Alice, and then they can hand in the latest secret on her behalf. Yeah. So these backup services are in discussion, of course, and the critics are backup services are not decentralized anymore, which is also true for a certain degree, but you always have this. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are also developments on the Bitcoin script language that you actually can only share a latest secret so that you don't need this penalty anymore. Yeah? But this is not active yet. It's a thing of the future.
Okay. Yeah, very interesting indeed. Again, thank you for the great presentation and answering the questions. And yeah, I think there are no more questions from our attendees. And yeah, if someone has a question, they can post it on the Telegram group and we will try to answer it.
Right.